Drawn reader digs the universe. I'm Ron Reader, and this is Ron Reader Digs the Universe, and tonight, Clarence Thomas and the American Idiots. U.S. Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas spewed some malevolently partisan gibberish last weekend in a speech he gave at the University of Texas. According to New York Times writer Jamel Bowie, Thomas asserts that progressivism seeks to replace the basic premises of the Declaration of Independence and hence our form of government. It holds that our rights and our dignities come not from God, but from the government. It requires of the people a subservience and weakness incompatible with a constitution premised on the transcendent origin of our rights. I got a few mainline Protestant and Unitarian friends who might take issue with Thomas's bizarre analysis, but really I don't think I even need to respond at all to this bullshit. Like, the left opposes all men are created equal. The left opposes life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Jesus, God, come on. And this is a justice sitting on the Supreme Court of the United States. How do we have such amazing ignorance, such tortured reasoning uttered by a man presumably elevated to his position because of his wisdom? Well, I don't know. It's really fucked up, and it pisses me off that we have come to this as a society, but I can speculate, and I think a couple of ideas I've hit on before here are driving factors. First, American society over the last 3/4 of a century has transitioned from what journalist and writer Chris Hedges has described as print-based culture into a culture of the electronic image. Reading in a print-based culture is deliberative. It is an organized, participatory thought process. Watching video, on the other hand, is all about emotion, about how you feel with relatively little thought involved at all. Nowadays, people don't read. Nowadays, people watch TV and scroll videos. Second, the liberal arts have become a joke because studying them won't get you a job. But people who study the liberal arts are the most likely in our society to read, the most likely to think deeply about American society in a systematic and critical way. 75 years ago, half of all university degrees awarded were in the liberal arts. Now it's less than 5%. So here's the situation. We got a civilization full of people who don't read, who don't think about the world in anything but the shallowest and most jingoistic ways, and whose emotions are constantly being jerked around by the great mass of video content they consume. Thinking deeply about who and what we are as a people is just no longer an American value. This is how Clarence Thomas gets away with uttering garbled nonsense and presenting it as thought. It's why we have anti-vaxxers. It's why we have fascism. But don't get me wrong, even though the conservatives are clearly in the bigger bubble of ignorance and anti-intellect, this isn't just a right-left thing. For instance, I have for some time now been seeing a disturbing amount of anti-Semitism coming out of the otherwise legitimate pro-Palestine movement. You know, I get youthful zeal, but some of these activists apparently can't be bothered to distinguish between the Jews and the state of Israel. Too nuanced for them, too complicated, because thinking is hard, even for the left. We Americans are all idiots together in the end. What's really disturbing here, though, is that I don't see any solution to our love of ignorance, our love of over-remoting. I don't see any solution coming anytime soon. We would first have to acknowledge that our information and entertainment systems have overwhelmed our ability to think like citizens, and that's just nowhere on the horizon, unfortunately. I'm Ron Reeder, and this has been Ron Reeder Digs the Universe. Join me, Ron Reeder, again next week for another episode of Ron Reeder Digs the Universe.